I was reflecting on the two presentations done this afternoon, I'd like to commend both presenters, Norville and Save the Children, for coming up with these research works that can be considered as a continuum along the evidence-based program development. So with Norville, they have given us a situationer of the people with Down syndrome, which propels key stakeholders to take action based on the data that they presented. And then with Save the Children, they have given us a snapshot of Kasari's program effectiveness and gaps, which might be a possible solution to the problem with disability inclusive education. Both core movements are from non-government organizations that enjoin the local government unit, the Department of Education, and the civil society organizations to take action towards that common vision of including the children with disabilities in school. With these papers, I have come to rethink about the idea of education. Education is not just cognitive development that transpires in the school. Education is more than schooling. While some would see that education may be a passport to life, we have to come to terms with the fact that education is not just inclusion in the classroom. It is more than acquiring those diplomas, those certificates, or it doesn't stop when you earn that job. Education is acknowledged as being a fundamental human right, and education is considered to be both a goal in itself and a means for attaining all the other human rights. So with that, in a sense, education is an enabling right. Education builds the capacity of each person, and that capacity building should be a lifelong activity. That, of course, includes those with disabilities. Being a lifelong activity, we all start living when we are born, right? So education needs to start as early as possible. That is to say, early detection and intervention of those with disabilities is paramount to prevent further delays. That being said, educators encompass more than just teachers, but I agree that it also includes families and the community. I agree that with the studies presented, as their locus do not point to the children's capacity alone. I think we have come a long way from that medical model of disability where we focus on the children. So with that, it requires a systems change that involve the educational society. And when we talk about educational society, that includes the varying roles of the people with disabilities as learners, and the educators from both the school and the allied health team, the family, the community, including the employers, and the policy actors. Disability inclusive education requires a lot of creative thinking and collaboration. Hence, education is not done in isolation, but it is a collective action. The resounding battle cry of both presentations is the need for persons with disability to participate in activities that are meaningful to them, because education is a right of a child. A rights-based perspective entails the need to analyze both the rights claimants and the duty bearers. In both presentations, we are given a snapshot of the need to address the capacity of the duty bearers from the families, the educators, and the community to protect, to promote, and provide this right. That is, from the onset of proper developmental stimulation in the first years of the child, to early detection and intervention, and eventually to quality education by different key actors. Alongside this, let us not forget to enhance the capacity of the persons with disability to claim their rights. Nothing is more important or more powerful than self-advocacy. The vision of disability-inclusive education may be elusive to some, but with empowerment we see hope. So as I commend the two studies, I also would like to ask these questions. For the situation of persons with Down syndrome, we are presented with reasons for not studying of the 20 persons with Down syndrome. However, I see that the bigger chunk, that is 41 out of 60, are currently studying. I think that's around 70%. So while we are accustomed to looking at the problem, I would like to use more of an appreciative inquiry approach. No? What enables these 41 people with Down syndrome to go to school, considering that all those 8 factors presented to us may also be existing in all the 60 people with Down syndrome. And also, having established that education must build capacity of the student with disability, I would also like to probe, given that the 41 children are enrolled in school, what is the quality of education given to these children? Next is for the Kasari program. As the program has been or is being implemented, I would like to know more about its efforts of scaling up. So we want to know how the local government unit and the involved schools have planned to sustain the initiatives of Save the Children. And then for both studies, being anchored on the rights of the child, I would like to ask, or probably a point for reflection. I noticed that both have minimum participation of the persons with disabilities in their studies. And so with that, I would like to know more about the reasons or the challenges which we can learn from in engaging the children with disabilities in efforts such as this. Because as mentioned earlier, nothing for us without us, right? So with that, thank you very much and a pleasant morning to everyone.
Thank you very much, Karen. Our presenters have given us eye-opening presentations, and our reactors have given their very insightful comments. So at this point, please join me in thanking them for their presentations and insights. Let us give them a hand. You have been very efficient in managing the time, no? Very efficient. So thank you very much to our reactors and presenters for their cooperation. So at this point, we will now open the session for questions. So may I invite our 2 presenters to sit here in front. And also, our reactors, please join us here too. You may want to provide further insights as we go along during the open forum. Please, our presenters and reactors, please join me here. Okay, so we are now ready to entertain questions. So just approach the mic, and when you do so, please give your name and also your affiliation. Let us make this an interactive and open discussion. So you may use any dialect that you're comfortable with. You may state your answer in English or in Filipino or even in Taglish. Other dialects are also welcome as long as may iintindihan po natin. Or baka may translator in the audience. So who would like to start? Okay, sir.
Thank you for the excellent presentations and reactions, and including the findings and recommendations. I'm Dan Agustin, Agricultural Sector of the Land Bank of the Philippines. And going back to basics, forgive me if I'm one of the publics who are ignorant. Ano po ang ibig sabihin ng Down syndrome sa Pilipino po? And disability, the mental disability, and employment-wise or career upscaling, as mentioned Raptor. Do we have examples whereby I know Helen Keller, for example. Helen Keller is an inspiration to Americans. He has no sight, but she has vision, okay, and inspired not only the American people, including me, but do we see examples, examples in the Philippines where with disability, yet what do you call this? They set as a role model in Philippine society. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Mr. Agustin. So yeah, leveling of understanding siguro muna tayo on what disability means, what it encompasses. So maybe here first from teacher Mai to be followed by Karen, and perhaps our reactors can also provide information as well.
Sir, good morning. Yeah, I would just like to clarify again. You were asking about specifically on Down syndrome, right? Is that it? This.
If the disability was also includes mental, not only
Okay,
physical.
yeah. So if I will quickly briefly discuss like Down syndrome, you know.
Tagalog lang, simple.
Tagalog. Okay.
No, we don't know.
Oo. Ano ba ito? Sige. Kapansanan. Oo. Kapansanan. In fact, the others there's usually a debate when to use disability and impairment. But if we're just talking of disability, it's kapansanan. Impairment is kapinsalaan yata eh. Okay, but
Is psychological or physical?
disability, okay, because there are different types of disability. Okay, Down syndrome belongs to what we call the developmental disability. And Down syndrome has comorbidities, meaning po, apart from Down syndrome, the diagnosis of Down syndrome, there are other nakaakibat ba yun? Attached conditions also. Okay, most of them, okay, have intellectual disability or what we call popularly known as mental retardation, but we don't use that anymore. Okay, although I know the medical professionals would still use it, they have their own reasons for that. But usually Down syndrome, it's linked up with intellectual disability or impairment. And apart from that, they have a lot of medical and health issues, plenty po, sir. In fact, when we were doing this study po, I also personally learned that more than the addressing the other needs of the people with Down syndrome, what ought to be addressed right away first are their medical and health needs. No? Quite a number of them have, I know, congenital heart defects. Some of them have mga issues with their, I think all body parts na nga po sinasabi nila, both internal and external, no? Like they have difficulty there, they have issues with their eyes, with their ears, some with their kidneys, with their lungs, so there's a lot. So that's why the medical doctors are saying education is important, but if you bring a very sickly child with Down syndrome to school, how can that child flourish, or really improve if the medical aspect is not being addressed well? So that's what we learned also from the study when we were doing this one po. And then the second question again, sir. I know sir had two, no? Yeah, you see Helen Keller. Perhaps the others here might know of someone, but personally, I have not known yet, no? But I believe there might be someone out there, no? But the others might know of po.
Just to lang po, dadagdagan ko lang po yung sinabi ni Teacher Mai. May 4 na klase po ng disability. Una po ay yung physical. Ito po yung madalas nating nakikitang naka-wheelchair. Ito po yung mas mabilis makita kasi nahihirapan silang gumalaw. Yun yung may physical disability. Pangalawa po, sila yung may mental or yung psychosocial disability. Sila po yung meron silang nahihirapan sila dun sa kanilang emotional regulation or probably meron silang mga hallucination or delusion, mga maling paniniwala. So ito po yung mga may schizophrenia or may major depression o yung may anxiety disorder. Yun po yung pangalawang klase ng disability. Pangatlong klase po ng disability, ito po yung may sensory. Sila po yung mga nahihirapan sa paningin, sa pandinig, sa lahat po ng senses. Yun po yung sensorial. At ang pang-apat po, yun po yung sinasabi ni Teacher Mai na learning. So, ito po yung mga bata na nahihirapan sa kanilang mga developmental milestones. Isa po doon ay ang mga batang may Down syndrome. Pero marami pa pong ibang mga conditions like autism, meron din po na mga specific learning disability like reading disability lang or hirap lang sila sa writing. So yun po yung apat. Ang madalas po nating na-encounter ay yung mas mabilis makita. So yun po yung apat na klase ng disability. Napakadami na po mga taong nagkaroon ng kapansanan na naging successful. Sa tulad po nung sa may Down syndrome, ang pinakasikat po ay si Brina. Si Brina Maximo po ay isa po sa mga batang may Down syndrome na nagkaroon ng 2 degrees. Napakadami na po niya naging achievement at siguro isa lang po siya. Marami pa pong ibang mga success stories ng mga bata across different disabilities. Sa katunayan, recently nga po, may nanalo pong team ng mga children with disabilities on, I think something on technology. Yun, so ano po yun, international award din po yun. So, marami pong success stories, sir.
Thank you very much. May add ka, Karen?
I-add ko lang po, no, yung sa usapin ng disability, meron din kasi siyang spectrum. So, meron yung batay din sa assessment at sa desisyon ng parents ng bata may disability mismo at sa kanong school na gusto niyang puntahan. Maaring self-contained ito yung nakahiwalay kasi kailangan natin siya ng support. Pero meron din nakapasok talaga sa mainstream o kaya full inclusion na rin, no? Ang nangyayari po sa ganun, no, ibig sabihin, i-relate ko lang doon sa sinabi ni Teacher Karen, pag sinabi pong disability kasi hindi lang ito agad yung physical na nakikita. Maraming high functioning po na individuals, no, na merong disability. Pero maaaring hindi yun alam ng madla kasi in the first place, babalik sa paano ba dapat tayo makipagkapwa tao, may disability man yung tao o wala, may official diagnosis man o wala.
Thank you. Would you like to add anything?
Yes, and it depends also on the decision making of the parents and the capacity of the child. So if the parents are not learned or they are not exposed, so they look at the child that as a child has a disability, but they will not look at the child as a person with a different ability. So when you those kids who really are very they are very successful. It is a combination of the parents' decision, the right school, the right team that you build, so that they will make a very effective or in a possible plan for that child to be successful.
Thank you very much. So let's now go to our next question. Just a reminder that we have limited time for the open forum, so if you can just make your questions short, and if you have any comments, probably you can reserve that for later. Or if you have really questions that need long clarification, then we have the lunch time or lunch break where you can talk to the speakers face to face. Next question, please. Anyone? Yes, sir.
Magandang umaga po. PhD student, Philippine Normal University. And inclusive education is really a hot topic today. Actually, ma'am, their researches are very good. But I only have one question. Meron na po ba tayong success indicator para sa mga living experiences of person in disability in mainstream education? Kasi this is very difficult in public school teacher. Like my wife is a kindergarten teacher and she's having 2 or 3 student with delay, ganyan. So in public school we have 25 to 30 students and it's really difficult to accommodate everyone. Kaya lang, we have inclusive education di natin po pwedeng hindi tatanggapin. Diba? Hindi po pwede din iba sabi sa mga gulang na hindi sila po pwede dito. Kaya lang, as of today po, do we have a research that will share us some success indicator that they can be in mainstream?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can we start with the... Okay, ma'am. Sige pa.
Salamat po sa question, sir. I actually did a study on that, the success indicators for disability inclusive education. The participants of that study had the civil society organizations, the non-government organizations, and the public school teachers, administrators, and the allied health professionals as well. In that study, we were able to identify 29 success indicators locally. Medyo iba po kasi yung characteristics ng Philippine education. And as I compared the indicators identified in the Philippines as compared to, let's say, Asia Pacific or in the other countries, makikita natin yung lack of resources talaga. That's why iba sa mga indicators na lumabas doon is budget talaga. And hindi lang yung budget, yung not just allocation but appropriation as well. So may mga ganun po lumabas. If you want, I can give you a copy of that study. Opo.
I was wondering kung ginagamit ba similar indicators ba na ginagamit ng Department of Education?
Yun lang po.
Meron po ba taga-DepEd dito
Meron
na
po ba
gusto
taga-DepEd?
mong magkasalita? Yes, ma'am, please. Para makuha din natin ang saloobin or ang gusto masabi ng DepEd.
Okay, good morning po. I'm Ms. Tina Amor-Vibuhat from Bureau of Curriculum Development. The focus of our specialization is guidance and special education. So, hindi po to question updates po to. Actually, this is a good news for us. Meron po kasi kaming na-craft na curriculum, the transition curriculum program for person with different disabilities po. So, natapos na po namin ang curriculum, natapos na rin po ang policy. Bali, lalabas po to hopefully next school year. So, ito po ay kinikater niya po lahat ng klaseng disability. Kasi meron po tayong problema ngayon sa SPED curriculum na kung saan marami nga pong, during our consultation po, marami pong mga teachers sa SPED na iba-iba po yung ginagamit nilang curriculum. So, ito na po yung kasagutan. Transition curriculum po, balik dito po ang packages nito. So, meron po tayong care, career, life, livelihood, enrichment, pre-voc, tsaka functional academy. So, yung mga bata po na hindi na kayang tumuloy ng kolehiyo, meron po mga curriculum, meron po silang exit. So, dito po sa aming transition curriculum, wala pong forever. Ibig sabihin, hindi po sila mag-stay sa school or sa community na wala lang po. So, meron po tayong 7 exit. For example po, si bata talaga hindi niya na kayang mag-kolehiyo or magtrabaho. Pwede pong ibigay sa kanya yung care curriculum para matulungan siya maging independent, at least paano magbihis, mag-toothbrush, or mag-supply. So, yun po. Bali, ito po yung mga kasagutan dun sa mga ni-raise nyo pong issue. So, hopefully po ito ay mga June po namin ilalabas para magamit na po ng lahat ng bata na hindi nakakapag-aral. Thank you.
Training for teachers and budget.
Tapos na po yung training for teachers na po dalawang beses na po kami. So, yan po. So, tapos na rin po yung... Yes, sir. Tapos na rin po yung policy. Yes, sir. Meron na rin po, sir. Thank you very much po.
Ilang billion?
Kasi alam ko po ito may priority po ng ating yes.
Thank you po for sharing with us the good news from DepEd. Palakpakan naman po natin sa mga initiatives po ng ating department. So, may gusto po bang idagdag ang ating mga speakers? Or, yes?
Sige, ma'am.
Karen?
Sorry.
Share.
Sige, thank you, Ma'am Tina from BCD. Siguro po, balikan ko na yung question in terms of success indicators for disability inclusive education programming. And ibabalik ko lang din dun sa key messages that Ma'am Mayumi and also Ma'am Karen said earlier, no, that also what we mentioned in the presentation, when it comes to disability inclusive programming, it's not just the schools per se. So it's not just DepEd. So while it's good that Ma'am Karen has come up with this study, I think it's very important to also consider, and I think it's already there in the indicators, the role of the other sectors that is not within the mandate of DepEd.
Yeah, yung role ng LGUs.
Yes, role ng
Down to the barangay
municipal,
level, no?
yes, ng allied health professionals, and also the parents
Parents,
themselves.
yeah. School, no?
During sports, yung Olympics meron, di ba?
Yes.
Opo. Sports, so sports as part of DepEd programming and also as part of LGU programming kasi iba rin yung oversight doon.
Thank you. So, next question please. Anyone? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Odette Portus from the Philippine Social Science Council. Parang emerging theme yung collaboration among different institutions. But I'd like to focus on the LGUs. Kasi sa ngayon, merong hope sa ating mga LGUs with Yorme, and Nico Soto, and the Zamoras, merong hope. So ang hinahanap ko dun sa mga study, yung specific example na pwede kaming mag-benchmark, na specific example of LGU and Northfield and what's your institution? Collaboration. Meron ba kaming pwedeng matingnan na study or maybe yung actual implementation of a program that we can take a look at, no? Para kung kami man ay magkaroon ng programs and services for the people with disabilities, meron kaming parang magiging review of related literature.
That's a very relevant question. Good practices, meron ba tayong pwedeng i-highlight? Yes.
Thank you, ma'am, for that question. Parang Miss Universe. In terms of good practices, I'm very happy that you asked that because aside from the study that we shared, the partnership with Save the Children is also with University of Santo Tomas. It's a series of studies that looks into the roles of the different sectors. There's one that focuses on the role of local government units, and it outlines there, and also kinikwento niya doon kung ano yung mga ginawang steps. For instance, ano yung budget na inallocate, ano yung klaseng ordinance sa municipal, sa city, at sa barangay level, paano ba mini-maintain yung community-based inclusive development sites, yung referral systems that link the LGUs with the schools, and also with the allied health professionals, up to the capacity building of these LGU officials. What are the key messages about disability inclusive education that they should know, and also how to basically translate it based on their mandate. So I will be happy to share it with you immediately after I go off the stage. Everything will go to you, and I think also Northfield Foundation have a series of studies as well.
Well, actually, in terms of studies po, since this is my first time to be linked up with Northfield in terms of this study, but with my experiences po with Autism Society Philippines, okay, I'm not sure if studies have been done in the two specific local governments, but I know Carmona in Cavite and the Mandaluyong, they have a lot of programs, not just only for education, but several programs and services that they've rendered in their communities, no? Which I know they're very happy, they're very receptive and welcoming people visiting their places and knowing really how they are going about, no? How they basically do all their programs and services to all their constituents over there. Pa. Sige pa. It's not a study though, ma'am, but you can look into Valenzuela. They also have a very good system for inclusive education. And in other schools, you can also look into St. Benilde, the practices of St. Benilde. They also have a very good program for inclusive education.
If I may add also, currently working on the Kabahagi program. It's an inclusion program for children with disability under Mayor Joy Belmonte. It's in Quezon City. So we'd be more than happy to have you over in the office. And we can have a tour if you like, because we have this program is community-based, and then we enjoy the public schools in the program as well.
these cases, no? Where we can draw lessons and insights from. At saka parang mag-serve as motivation, as an encouragement for other LGUs. Kasi kung nagawa ng ibang LGUs, pwede din magawa ng iba. Hopefully, magkaroon din ng compendium ng mga cases na to, ano, para mas madaling ma-disseminate. I was told that we only have three minutes left, so if we can have one final question from the audience. Sir, siguro mamaya ka na, no? The lady at the back, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Diana Chiliscuput from TESTA. I'd just like to inform everyone that TESTA is actually providing a lot of skills development opportunities and even job opportunities, because the persons with disabilities, we call them actually special clients of TESTA, including drug surrenderers, even inmates, and even solo parents and others. So we have special programs for them. Actually, we are partnering with a lot of LGUs and even other civil societies and even other government agencies, so that we could be able to help them and cater fit to their needs. So we really design programs na talagang bagay sa kanila. We are always open. You can always go even to our provincial offices and even to our regional offices, so we could be able to talk about and collaborate with each other.
How about yung mga tests na, halimbawa, in rural areas? So, accessible ba yung mga courses na yun?
Yes, actually po, meron kaming mga courses na talagang designed for them, even for indigenous people.
Okay.
Kung ano po yung need ng in-community, yun din pinifit namin yung mga skills programs para sa kanila. So, pwede po silang pumunta sa aming mga regional offices, provincial offices. Actually, meron po kaming isang pong program na talagang kinikater, pinupuntahan po talaga yung mga communities. Even po yung mga rebel returnees, so pinupuntahan po talaga kahit kalibdiban po ng mga lugar just to reach out for them.
Salamat po sa information na share. Okay. Is that related to what she said? LGU practices. LGU practice. One quick lang po, quickly lang po, kasi wala na po tayong time.
I'm Madeline Tejol from the Development Academy of the Philippines. We just have previously conducted research with the UNICEF, and I would like to share that there are good practices that we have identified with San Remigio, Municipality of San Remigio in Cebu, for their yung sa DRR nila na initiative. And also the municipality of UP in Manila. So among those LEs that are being mentioned, to have good practices. So in DRR, tapos yung isang conflict areas.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So with that, we have to close this session. Thank you very much po, and let us give another big hand to our presenters and discussants for their presentations and comments, and to all of you po for your active participation. So thank you po. We will now proceed with session 2, which is on research studies on out-of-school youth and out-of-school children. Okay. Our first presenter is a senior research fellow at the Philippine Institute for Development Studies. He was a former Secretary General of the defunct National Statistical Coordination Board, which was consolidated with other statistics offices into the Philippine Statistics Authority. He is also a member of various bodies and expert group on statistics and related matters, including the United Nations Global Pulse Data Privacy Advisory Group, and the Philippine Commission on Higher Education's Technical Committee on Statistics. Friends, I now give you Dr. Jose Ramon Albert.
Thank you, Sheila. Uh, Good morning. On behalf of my co-researcher, Clarissa David of UP, who is currently seconded to the World Bank, and my research assistant, I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me to give this presentation. Just for you to give a little bit of background, this was undertaken partly as a continuing study way back in 2012. PIDS was asked by UNICEF and DepEd to do this country study on out-of-school children, and I led a team to actually examine all the available information from surveys, admin data, DepEd. Among many other things, we also collected primary data just to get a sense of what's going on in 2012. And then in 2015, 3 years later, Brother Armin, then the DepEd secretary, said, this is nice, but can we try to update it so it's not going to be olds, but to be news. So we updated it with the next set of available information. Then, so that was 2012, then 2015, 2016, then now, 3 years later, this was actually done in 2018. We again re-examined just to see where things are. Okay, so as I was saying, in 2012 we were looking at data that was available. Then in 2015, still the data available. But the nice thing in 2015 was we knew that there were new things happening at DepEd, particularly the implementation of kindergarten, mandatory kindergarten, K-12, and also there seemed to be some traction happening also about the CCT, DepEd getting more resources. So we were noticing that the problem was changing in terms of magnitudes and proportions of kids who are no longer in school. It's been decreasing, but now, so question is, where are we? Just globally, just for you to see what's going on, there seemed to have been really an attempt to reduce out-of-school children, partly because of the Millennium Development Goals. There was a push towards making sure you had universal primary education. But again, if you look at the numbers, or at least the trends, it seems like there's been a plateau. Things are not moving anymore. And the hard part is, it's not just a push now that we've gone from MDGs to SDGs. We're trying to push for quality education, inclusive education, lifelong learning systems. But are we there? And unfortunately, we're not. Not just the Philippines, but in many countries as well. But we wanted to, as I said, give an update on where things are. So we wanted to look into, again, data available from surveys, plus try to, again, go around the country, try to get a sense of what's going on. Because now that we have a new administration, well, they're no longer new, they're there for 3 years, so hopefully things are better off. But the DepEd Secretary's, current DepEd Secretary's flagship program is the ALS, the Alternative Learning System. And they're trying to do certain things to make sure that certain out-of-school children, or youth actually, are still being given a program, because you can't force them back into schools, but at least you can give them something that will help them. And so DepEd has a number of alternative delivery modes. We noticed there's a few things, but I'll skip the details. Some of it is on the slides, some are in the actual report. But now let me give you a summary of where things are numbers-wise. So these are the trends. 2008, we had about about 3 million kids who were out of school, and of the ages between 5 to 15, and that's by 2014. There's good news that it seems like, because sometimes the CCT seems to be always by certain people there, it's been critiqued that it's like an ATM machine for some people, no? But it was designed to actually incentivize the families to send their kids to school because they're in hardship. Most of the time, the poor families, it's really a condition of poverty and they get trapped. So where things are, you've already heard a little bit of what Dr. Balesteros said earlier, that poverty seems to have reduced. Some people are maybe having their eyebrows raising, situated through poverty is reducing. Well, if you are using a standard definition of what poverty is, the proportion of people who are poor by that standard, the same standard years ago, and we're just changing across time, prices, it seems like we're getting people out of poverty. But the question is sustained exit out of poverty. That's another thing altogether. But it seems like the families are currently getting incentivized so that they have less children out of school. But what's sad is when you start disaggregating the information and you start seeing the gap between BARM with regions, with many regions, including Metro Manila is way there, but you can see those disparities. And you can understand why there has been a push towards federalism, although that's not going to be really solving anything. But the main issue is, even for BARM now, what are we doing to help them? Because if you're thinking of inclusivity, they will be left behind. And it's already clear that there are a lot of serious problems with BARM. And you can always say, well, now they're independent, well, so let them solve the problem. But that's not going to be. If we don't help them, then society's problems will continue. But even you look even closer, even to Metro Manila, Mimaropa, Calabarzon, you still get a fairly large proportion of kids who are out of school, partly because they may be close to Metro Manila, but there are difficult terrains, dense populations, among other things. But let me give you the bigger picture. If you look at currently profile the out-of-school children, who are they, where are they? The big bulk are male. Okay, the big bulk are male. So if you keep saying, well, we should empower women, we should empower, well, now it's the reverse. We have to empower the boys. Okay. Next is, if you start looking at, boys versus girls, it's not very clear yet in the early years, but as you start aging, as the kids, the boys especially, are the ones being left behind. And even as I will show you later from the NAP, although I don't think I gave breakdowns on the NAP, the National Achievement Test, they're a bit dismal. Not a bit, they are dismal. And sadly, if you've been shocked at the PISA results, you shouldn't have been. I was predicting that already. We're gonna get really, really bad results. It's been happening, and it should have been a wake-up call for all of us a long time ago. And the issue even about kids getting out of school is that they're not motivated. We heard that a little bit even for certain types of kids, but more so for those kids who get out of school. They're having difficulties because most of these kids, of course, they're in the poorest quintile. They're very poor. They tend to be immediately excluded even in classroom. You put them, you just notice they're kids at the back. Why? Because they don't know how to read, so it's easier to just put them at the back. It's a tendency. If you just even observe classroom management, usually the boys are at the back, the people at the back, because they're unruly or whatever. So the usual thing is the bureaucracy. The female is very female. So because the female teachers are having difficulty with the boys, just put them at the back. And then eventually they lose interest. Why do they lose interest? I'll say a little bit of a story later. But surveys of PSA have always been tracking from this annual poverty indicator survey. Why are the kids out of school? Well, it varies, boys versus girls, but roughly in terms of proportions, about the same Same idea still is that it's quote lack of personal interest is number one. Number two is quote illness now. Number three, that is from the primary age kids. High cost of education even for secondary school. Why is it? I thought college, high school is supposed to be free. Well, because there are also hidden costs to schooling. Okay? And now we've pushed wrong policies. Free college, free college. Yes, free college seems right idea, but it's a wrong idea because you have more inequity. Because the reality is the poor kids will not go to college. So the ones you're supporting in college or free college are actually the ones who can afford, who could actually pay. Okay? And so we're wasting resources. So we should be actually putting back our resources to basic ed more than that. No? If you support higher ed, it's more to improve quality, not quantity. We're always so fixated about access. But we keep forgetting it's not just access. It should be giving them good quality education. And we're not doing that. Look at the NAT. Mean achievement, the map, these are the, how do you call this? Mean percentage scores, MPS. Supposedly, MPS. So, on average, their performance should be, I think, 70 at least, I think, or something like that. They're getting below 50. Oh my goodness. And by the way, this is 2016. If you compare the next year or some, I think this was the latest one. But if you compare with the previous year, this was even lower. So something's wrong. Now we keep telling ourselves, things are okay, things are okay, things are not okay. Come on, wake up. Okay? And the thing is, so we started asking, okay, well, what exactly is going on? Even, again, start seeing the disparities across regions. NCR also, the overall proficiency seems to be, at least for grade 6 students, best in NCR, least in Davao, in Bicol, in Zamboanga. But what's going on? Maybe there's some gaming happening too with achievement tests, maybe, but still, even if there's gaming happening, why do you mean gaming? Because somehow there's incentives for the teachers to get to get higher scores. Okay, if they get higher scores, they get a little bit of bonuses. But anyways, that's another thing altogether. But if you do a little bit of econometrics, what are the things that you find? One is wealthier. The wealthier the kids are, the less likely they're going to be out of school, as is to be expected. That's why, in fact, we made the intervention in the CCT to sort of remove that kind of issue on wealth being your driver. Compared to 6-year-old kids, the children 7 to 11 are less likely to be out of school. So, in other words, the pre-primary and kindergarten kids, we need to do a little bit more to make sure that they go to school. How about 13 to 15 relative to the 12-year-olds? The 13 to 15 are more likely to be out of school than the 12-year-old kids. And understandably, because again, you might think that, anyway, hindi nag-aaral, anyway, walang interest. Ano na lang, pagtrabahuhin na lang natin. Ganyan. Yan yung nagiging perspective. But the question is, why do they lack interest? Yeah. Why do they lack interest? Why do they lack interest? So we did a lot of interviews, field visits, and some of the things that you'll notice that there are systemic issues that actually get traced all the way to early grades. They don't know how to read. So that's why they lack interest staying in school, is because they, not only did they get poor grades, then why do they get poor grades? Because they don't know how to read. Even for math, they don't do well in math because they don't know how to read. Something's wrong. We don't teach them how to read. But there's so many things we could do. Well, we have a lot of remediation for, some schools are doing their best because the thing is, again, resources-wise, schools are in trouble. We're not really doing enough. I hope that, where's the lady representative of the representative? Oh, yes, okay. We have the representative of the representative. Okay. I hope we really need to muster enough support within the legislature to spend properly. We keep spending. Now we'll have 4 trillion peso budget, but It's okay to have lots of money to spend, but we have to spend it wisely. Because especially now we're build. Yeah, we are going to invest. That's okay, physical investments. But what about people? You should be investing in them too, right? Okay. So, but the whole thing is that if you think about it, everything is traced to the issue of poverty. It's still there. That's one of the main driving forces. Then, what we also notice is there's lack of parental guidance. We start seeing kids, especially in urban areas, ay nagko-computer shop, nag-gaming, ganyan, nawawala ng interest. Kasi syempre si teacher, hindi marunong magturo masyado. Feeling niya, hindi niya maintindihan, o hindi kasi marunong magbasa. Kaya sa kanya, hindi niya maintindihan. And we talk with the kids, we talk with the teachers, yung mga teachers naman, inis sa mga, lalo na sa high school teachers, naiinis, gugulo ng mga yan, walang mga respeto sa amin, ganyan. Nagkagas-gasan rin sila. Okay? But, yan, so they keep saying, ay, may barkada kasi yan. Yan, nagkakaroon ng disciplinary problem, early marriage. By the way, it is early marriage. Do you know that right now, more than half of our kids, our babies, are illegitimate. You look at the civil registration system, 53% as of 2017. Yes, are born out of wedlock. And many of them are probably teenage pregnancies. CCT, yung mga nagda-drop out from the CCT ng poor families, usually nagda-drop out sila sa CCT dahil yun nga, nabuntis na, o nakabuntis, yan. So these are issues, no? And they're all connected. They really are connected. Okay? So we need the whole of government approaches. Okay? Only thing is, kawawa rin sa lahat, hindi lang yan nga, sinasabi, may barkada, may family problems, walang parents who are going to give guidance. Some are getting abused. Even, by the way, with the PISA results, I hope some of you might have read, more than half of the kids are reporting that they're getting bullied. I hope you don't forget that. There's a sentence said in the PISA that says that more than half. I think 63% or something like that. It's something to be worried about. It might be too big. It might be too big a number. Maybe it's a biased estimate, but still, it's something to get worried about. Economic issues, poor academic performance, but as I said, that's really because of the non-readers. Okay? The parents themselves, if they have low education, how can you expect to teach? Because, may project, tumulong naman sa ganyan. So, they cannot help their kids. Early pregnancy and marriage. Supply side, teacher issues, the workload, my goodness. Some of the teachers, they keep bringing all of their things at home. Not only that, they have so many responsibilities to be election guards, to do the census, to do attendance in trainings, and then magdo-document pa sila. May may procurement, so many things. But in fact, the main intervention is for teachers. It's not even salary increases, although of course they will be happy if you give them salary increases. The main intervention is really to make sure they have more admin workers, to let them teach, to give them time to teach rather than to give them time to do all those sorts of things that are not their responsibility in the first place. Performance incentives, you have PBPs that originally were tied to zero dropouts. Kaya naman kina-graduate nila, sige, parang hindi na kita makita. Pataas ng pataas. So, nangyayari, eventually nawawala yung interest nila. No? Kasi nga, they don't even learn, but they're gonna go to the next level. And then eventually, pagdating ng college, kung nag-college pa man yan, kawawa sa college teacher. Okay? Okay. But while there is no formal policy of mass promotion, but it seems the incentive systems are creating your perverse effects. Okay, physical access, there are issues still. Not enough schools are being built, not even learning materials. So of course, we are hoping that the PSA, kasi there's a question in the survey about lack of interest, what exactly this means. We are asking the PSA hopefully to change their questionnaire a little bit more. But There's an issue of gender gaps. Hopefully that should be addressed to address vulnerability of voice. Teacher workload, that should be addressed. LGUs are there, but how come there's no, again, complementarity of efforts? Okay, there's supposed to be a way to help. Okay, innovations, best practices. There are a few good practices around, but they're not getting scaled up. Yeah. This is already nearly done. The only thing is, like, we have good models. We had the Bernidos one. They're physicists. They created a school in the Visayas. They won the Ramon Magsaysay Award. Their mean MPS for their students is much higher than the DepEd schools, MPS for the NAC. And yet, it's not getting upscaled. Okay? There are all of these things, but why can't we identify the good practices, upscale them? There's something happening, and I think part of it is because we're not currently, I heard that term earlier, there's not enough monitoring and evaluation happening. And even if when there is, after we monitored, after we evaluated, we become the bad guys, nothing still happens. There should be a push to make sure that all of these evaluations will actually yield actions. So those of you who are in Congress or who are supporting the congressmen and etc., make sure to use your power to actually force things so that eventually we can get quality. But ultimately, the issue is about poverty. Thank you. Magandang umaga.
Thank you very much, Toots. Our next presenter is Professor Maria Mercedes Arzadon, who is a faculty member at the College of Education, University of the Philippines, Taiwan. And this morning, she will be represented by Nina Svetlana Mendoza, who works with a homeschooling provider as a UMS track advisor for senior high school students. She is also working as a research assistant for a development worker to further her knowledge on inclusive education and community development. Friends, I now give you Ms. Nina Svetlana Mendoza.
Thank you. Good morning. Kaya pa ba niyong makinig? Kaya ba? Okay. So, actually, I enjoyed listening to Dr. Albert. Thank you. Medyo talaga, it's high time that we talk about this kind of issues. So, for this morning, I'm actually going to represent Professor Ched Arzadon because she has to attend a family matter. And we actually did this research in 2016. So, it's about study on out-of-school children alternative delivery modes. Yeah. So, our research objectives are this. So, the relevance of our study, it's about, kumbaga, most of the studies are actually done for out-of-school youth. So there's a dearth of study when it comes to out-of-school children. And at the same time, we wanted to find out the reasons why are they dropping out. So for this study, we looked for 6 to 12-year-old students in Save the Children partner communities in Caloocan, Malabon, Navotas. And then we also strive to make an inventory of effective ADMs, yung functional na ADMs. We had our initial sampling technique was purposive, and then eventually it became snowball. Kumbaga, from one fisher folk, meron siyang i-network ng mga fisher folks. And then from there on, parang there was, kumbaga, a very rich information or data that we have gathered. And then there were also 17 ADM-related programs operated by DepEd, specifically in Metro Manila and in Masbate. And we also conducted interviews with fisher folks, with parents, with community leaders, and observations and document analysis. Sorry. So our research, we categorized the findings into two. So the first findings was about the out-of-school children, and the second one is about the alternative delivery modes. So as you can see there, so children usually leave school at grade 2 and grade 5, and then dropout is usually influenced by the push-pull dynamics. And then, yeah, we have found out that the school leaving are actually contextual. So when you say the contextual, it depends kung nasa urban or rural area pa siya. It's the socio-economic causes and what are the school practices. And we also find out the nature of children. So when you talk about physical limitation, for example, in Navotas, we found out na yung mga bata, syempre most of the parents that we have interviewed there, mga single moms. So isipin nyo kung single moms yan, syempre wala naman, kumbaga they have to work double time. And then, they don't have enough money to hire ng taga-sundo or taga-hatid. So yung may fear sila na pag yung bata, di ba yung malayo? Kasi meron po doon natatawid pa na may isang highway in between. Tapos wala namang, kumbaga, wala pa siyang, kumbaga, maayos na tawiran. So yung mga parents, instead of papapasukin yung bata, iyan na lang sa bahay. Tapos syempre yung mga bata, syempre kumbaga may fear din sila na papasok ba ako, ang layo-layo ng lalakaran ko. Tapos napasok sila dahil nga majority ng mga pinuntahan namin, mga sa slums area. So kumbaga ang linis ng uniform nila dahil tas mga putik-putik yung madadaanan nila. Pagdating nila sa classroom, madumi na yung uniform nila. So those are some of the factors that we have found out. And then there's the importance of baon. Napaka-importante ng baon dahil majority dito ay in high poverty areas. Pag wala silang baon, syempre, there's the stigma na pag recess time na, hindi sila makakain. They cannot keep up with their peers, di ba? And then there's the vulnerability to physical and emotional abuse. And then they are also, most of them actually, are considered as helpers of their parents. And then there's also the push-pull factors on school leaving. So when you talk about the push-pull factors, yun nga, pag namatay, kunya, there's the sudden death of a family member. Kumbaga lalo na kung yung father ang namatay, na pinaka-main source of income, and then nagkasakit, may bullying, hindi mo talaga mawala yung bullying, and then yung mga relocation. Meron po dyan yung sa Navotas, na pag na-relocate ka, ang laking factor na talaga magda-drop out ka kasi pag yung sa lilipatan nila, may maayos ba silang magiging trabaho ba doon? And then the nature of community livelihood, lalo yung sa Navotas and then sa Malabon. Majority sa Navotas, mga fisher folks, mostly, syempre, sila yung tutulong sa mga magulang nila. And then, come to think of it, gigising sila ng 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning. And then, after that, they have to go to school at 7 a.m. So, yung gravity na ang bigat nun sa bata na bata, palagay yung mga 7 or 10-year-old na iisipin mo na papasok ka sa trabaho and then after that you have to go to school and then you have to be, kumbaga, you have to be lucid at the same time. It's very difficult for them. And then there's the degree of support from parents, community. Depende. Yun po it's actually, kaya yung kanina sinasabi na, what about the support from the LGUs? So it actually depends also kung is there a strong support from the community or from the LGUs themselves. And then dito pumapasok yung logic of school leaving. Since majority of the out-of-school children here who are working, since they have experience, they have the money already, and then they actually experience working. So what's the point of going to school? Yun yung nagiging kalaban natin dito sa dropout na issue. And then, another one is the small children start to school. So yung kanina sinabi ko, there's a busy highway. Siyempre, pag bata ka, mas takot ka eh. Di ba? Parang it's a big road. Tapos, usually tayo ito sa Pilipinas, we really require small children to have someone to go with them to school. And then, meron po kami nakita doon, yung sa Navotas, yung parang dahil nga, parang shortcut, nangyayari dahil imbes na dadaan sila sa isang malaking highway, parang may shortcut doon na wall na may maliit na butas. Tapos, alam mo, it's very hazardous. Kasi maliit na butas na yun, mababasa pa sila. Isipin niyo, naka-uniform ka, may ibang mga bata ginagawa nila, hindi mo lang sila mag-uniform, tapos parang papasok lang muna sila sa hole na yun, sa itong wall, tapos may hole, doon sila papasok para makapunta sila sa school nila. And then, ang maganda naman sa nakita namin, isang best practice sa Navotas, they have this one, yung kindergarten on wheels. Para, kumbaga, alam mo, it's a mobile school. Pumupunta sila sa mga areas na, remote areas, lalo na yung sa mga areas na marami nagda-drop out ng mga bata. And then there's also, kanina I just like to stress yung sinabi ni Professor Albert na it's about the pressure for beginning readers. Di ba lalo na ngayon na nag-stress ang DepEd, ma'am, tama po ba na parang there should be parang zero readers, zero non-readers. And because of that, there's the pressure for us teachers, because I'm a teacher, but not necessarily in a public school, but for teachers to really, kumbaga, help make the children read. What if kung talaga it's not responsive to the need of the children? So, isa pong na-interview namin parents, sabi niya, sa Malabon po ito yung anak niya, nag-drop out kumbaga, he stopped going to school kasi, kumbaga, hindi siya nakakapabasa. Unfortunately, ang thinking ng teacher, hindi ka nakakapabasa. Napapagalitan siya ng teacher dahil hindi daw siya marunong, dahil hindi siya makapagbasa. Tapos, tipong dumating pa sa point, sabi ng teacher, suko na ako sa bata na to. So, isipin mo yun, di ba? Kasi teachers can actually make or break a child. So, kumbaga, kung yun ang nararamdaman mo, kumbaga, that's the vibe from a teacher. So, napapass on, nararamdaman ng bata yun. So, yung bata, syempre, ang response niya na negative na perspective sa kanya ng teacher. So, most probably, what's the point of going to school? So, yung bata, ginawa niya, kaya mula nun, ayaw niya nang magpaiwan sa school dahil napagalitan siya ng teacher, napagsasabihan siya, kumbaga lagi siya nasi-single out. So, meron na siyang trauma. So, may teacher factor po tayo dito. And then, for the working students, there's the pool of the sea and the fish port. So, dahil nga sa coastal, kumbaga tabing dagat, kumbaga there's the pool of the sea. So, parang sa mga bata na to, they find yung working kasama sa palaot as an adventure. It's a real life adventure. So, yung yung sinasabi ni Sir na, what do you call this, hindi na siya ganon ka-interest, di ba? Students are leaving because there's the lack of interest. But this is the real life, authentic, genuine, what do you call this, experience. So, mas gusto nila dito magtrabaho. So, ito yung mga trabaho usually. Pag sa maliliit, nagpupulot sila ng isda kasi it's a market. And then for the bigger children, ito po yung mga karaniwang trabaho po nila. And then, because most of them actually, they love yung mga useful, very applicable skills. Unlike sa school na, okay, I learned math, how can I apply it? Diba? Usually, ganun ang thinking, I know, I learned how to write, but what's the application in my real life? Unlike sila, pagkatuto ko, magagawa ko agad. Yan, ito po yung sample po ng pictures po. And then, the value of work to small children. So, ang thinking, imbes na magtatambay na lang sila, magtatrabaho na lang kami. And then, dahil nga, nakita namin itong perspective na to sa mga magulang specifically, na they find their children who are working, they consider them as good children. Kasi nakakapagbigay. And at the same time, yung nakakapagbigay para sa, ang tawag dito, sa bahay, yung mga pera nila na yun, nagagamit din lang pambili ng school supplies. So they become a good child and a good student at the same time. And then, ito po si Nanay Mercy, ito po that's why, because there's the pool of the sea or the pool to work, it will really take a lot of effort from the part of the parents to really get their children to continue learning. So ito pong si Nanay Mercy, kumbaga, nakatira siya sa isang high poverty area, tapos meron siyang, nag-ALS pa siya, just to derive a point sa mga anak niya na napaka-importante ng pag-aaral. Pero kailangan nilang siya, tsaka po silang mag-asawa, kailangan nilang magtulungan para lang talaga i-regulate. Yun it's about regulating the work schedule of their children who are working in the fish port. Kumbaga, hindi nila hinayaan kasi kailangan naman din talaga nila ng pera. Pero at the same time, kumbaga merong may bar, kumbaga nagre-regulate sila, sige, magtatrabaho ka, but there's only a specific time. After that, you have to go to school. And then, ito po yung mga work hazard na nakita po namin. So yan, meron nagbabantay ng makina. Usually kasi pag maliit, magaan ang katawan, sila yung pinapaswimming. Kunyan na may sira yung makina, sila yung taga-talon, sila yung titingin, kunyari may bumara sa makina. So very hazardous yun. Kasi pag minsan, madaling araw, di nila nakikita. So yung hazard na baka pwedeng mapuputulan sila ng kamay or malunod. And then, yeah, isa pa po namin nakitang problema is the school and work schedule. It's very, for the formal school, very inflexible. It's not flexible kasi syempre yung mga bata, pagdating na ng oras ng pag-aaral, inaantok na yan. Kung sana, gawing hapon sana para at least ma-meet yung economic need naman nila. And then these are the tensions that we found when it comes to logic of schooling. Why do they need to go to school since they are earning already? And then still there's the parents' long-term view na sana makapag-aral sila, makapagtapos kasi they can still go back to to fishing. Oops, yeah. These are the potential, kulang na ako sa oras. So potential, these are actually yung parang best practice na nakita namin, yung isang sa Mandaluyong Elementary School. So Kariton Classroom Program ang kanyang setup. And then at the same time, yung nagsusundo, tapos it's more actually, holistic yung program nila. Tinugunan yung lahat ng pangangailangan ng mga bata. And then there's also MISOSA. When you say MISOSA, modified in-school, out-school. So kunyari, 1 week nasa school sila, the next week, doon na sila sa trabaho. So this is for seasonal. Seasonal ng mga estudyante na. Lalo na, kunwari kailangan ng tag-ani, kailangan nilang mag-ani, tutulungan nila. So kailangan, kumbaga may week sila na mag-aaral at may week sila hindi mag-aaral para tutulungan nila yung mga magulang nila. Pero ang kagandahan dito, there's a community tutor na pumupunta sa bahay nila para talagang there's the follow-up. Kasi may mga modules silang ginagamit dito. May follow-up pa rin. So parang there's the homeschooling approach pa rin po dito sa ADM program na to. And then these are the positive ADM. I just want to emphasize, these are the positive ADM features that we want to stress about. It should be flexible. Parang tugunan yung ano ba yung kailangan ng mga bata, ano yung oras. Diba? If they're working, ano yung oras na medyo aakma sa schedule nila. And then contextual. When you say contextual, ano ba yung alam ng bata? Kaya one of the reasons why they're dropping out, they're not interested, baka mamaya tinuturo ay hindi naman related sa yung pangangailangan nila. And then there's the holistic. Kumbaga, syempre, whole. Kumbaga, what do you call this? The food, their health, diba? Not just only their learning needs. And then, there should be a program for parents and peer support, and then material support, psychosocial services. There should be the bridge between street and work. And then these are actually our recommendation that there should be program for identification of every type of out-of-school children. And then develop a contextualized and asset-based. When you say asset-based, you have to know where the child is. Kumbaga, lahat tayo, may alam na tayo. Lahat ng mga bata pagpapasok yan, they have a wealth of information already. We can actually tap that. And then support the institutionalization of ADX for elementary level. Kasi we have ALS for older. Diba? Paano naman yung mga nag-drop out na at grade 2 or yung mga maliliit na bata? We have open high school nga, we have farm school. So what about the what about if you are going to institutionalize ADM programs specifically for children? So, yeah. So if ever you have questions, you can send it to Professor Ched Arzado. Thank you.
Very much, Nina. So after listening to those two insightful presentations, let us now listen to the comments of our reactors. And our first reactor is the planning officer of the Council for the Welfare. Our first reactor is the planning officer for the Council for the Welfare of Children, and he spearheads the implementation and monitoring of sectoral plans of action for assigned sectors on children. He also engages with government, civil society, and international development partners to develop and formulate evidence-based policies and programs for assigned sectors and children. And he also, as planning officer, represents the CWC on policy-related concerns and studies and issues and concerns of children for policy recommendations and formulation. Friends, let us listen to Mr. Neil Anton Villafranca.
Isang makabagong pagbati po sa inyo lahat. Ako po pala si Ramil Villafranca mula po sa CWC, Council for the Welfare of Children, na isa pong attached agency ng Department of Social Welfare and Development. In behalf of our Executive Director, Yusek Mitch Kahayan Uy, we would like to thank Save the Children Philippines and PIDS for allowing the CWC as the lead and focal agency of the Philippine government, which is mandated by law to coordinate the formulation, implementation, monitoring, evaluation, and review of all laws, policies, and programs on children to provide a reaction on these important evidences on out-of-school children and youth, and, well, generally for Filipino children. We always appreciate mechanisms which will emphasize the vulnerabilities of children for greater awareness and information sharing, which then could lead to evidence-based programming and plan formulation. The results of the presentations show that the Filipino children are lagging in terms of proficiency and inclusion in formal school settings. Actually, this is not very new because during the conduct of the 2016 National Baseline Study on Violence Against Children, which was conducted by CWC, which was further complemented by other research studies such as the systematic literature review of drivers of violence against children in the Philippines. We have determined various risk factors which put children into situations that will perpetrate violence against them. For example, alcohol use, child prostitution, teenage pregnancy, presence of impairment or disability, family expectations, norms and cultural ideals which govern the society, and being out of school actually is an established vulnerability to sexual, physical, and even psychological violence against our children. We have also learned based on information on fact. For example, 2 in 5 children experience sexual violence, 3 in 5 Filipino children experience physical violence, etc. And that while there is very high prevalence of violence, there is very low reporting of these incidences. Earlier, it was emphasized that boys should be equally looked into, same with girls, which is the same with the results of the NBS Bank, because data shows that more boys experience violence a little higher than girls. That is why we need to provide equal protection for these boy children. These risk factors were all reflected samely as the factors which contribute to the prevalence of out-of-school children in the Philippines. Over the years, we have continuously tried to establish evidences and data for us to develop and formulate scientific programs and plans. I think now it is high time that we move forward and finally operationalize, implement, and pilot programs and projects based on these evidences. In essence, the presentations showed a lack in the implementation of a comprehensive framework which will address all these concerns. While there is a National Plan of Action for Children, the Philippine Plan of Action to End Violence Against Children, as well as other sectoral plans, we need to unite and operationalize all these frameworks for us to move forward and to gain momentum in reaching out not to just out-of-school children, but to all children who need that their rights be recognized. We can actually triangulate the results of the study through the results of the government's child-friendly local governance audit, wherein one of the indicators is to decrease the dropout rates in schools. But we also recognize, as mentioned in the study, that the current bureaucratic technicalities, including supposed incentives, could be consequential in the quality of education that our children receive. I believe, again, it is high time to really revamp and to revolutionize our current interventions to provide progressive solutions to problems which we all know which have long been there. As a way forward, the CWC can propose to its board members, including the Department of Education, the recommendations forwarded by the researchers as reflected in the study for us to flourish with the current interventions that we provide. We understand that the recommendations are mostly regarding service delivery, which the CWC does not have a mandated function of, but the CWC as the government agency which shall provide oversight functions on all programs affecting children shall be rightly involved with. Lastly, we also always advocate for a whole-of-government approach and convergence with civil society actors, as this is not just a concern of one agency, but this shall be rightfully addressed through the synergy of different government agencies and civil society working together. When we think of it, we need to involve, for example, the Department of Social Welfare and Development in terms of research augmentation for impoverished sectors and providing psychosocial and mental health services for these children. Strengthening of the 4Ps program, which is formal education for children as a requirement. And for example, we also need the Department of Interior and Local Government in terms of advocating for more child development workers and empowering local government units to provide localized and specific approaches and solutions based on their experiences, which will set the momentum for early childhood care and development. These are just on top of the current glaring concerns. Again, we call on everyone to work and unite and move forward from the research results to achieve a better and more protective, child-friendly, and child-sensitive society for, by, and with the Filipino children. Yun lamang po, maraming salamat. At lagi-lagi para sa bayan at para sa bata. Sa mga kabating pagbati muli sa inyo lahat. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat. Friends, we actually have a third presenter and we would like to apologize to our third presenter for the confusion. So, let me now introduce her. She is the Project Officer for Alternative Delivery Mode at Save the Children Philippines. A former reading teacher, she believes the stories are the best way to teach and learn. She earned her degree in Education Studies from the University of the Philippines and is also an advocate for alternative education, including distance and open education. Friends, Miss Ivy Puntalba.
Okay lang po. Sorry po na nakawan ko kayo ng oras para sa inyong lunch. Hindi pa ako concerned sa inyo. Sa sarili ko ako concerned. Joke lang po. Mabilis lang po ito. I just want to share updates for yung ADM programming ng Save the Children. So kanina po narinig ninyo yung research na kinandak ng UP for SAVE. Now I'm going to give updates doon sa child mapping that we did in 2018. Right now, we're providing technical assistance to the Department of Education Central Office for their ADM program. Yan. Paano ba ito? Okay. So, magsistart po ako dun sa isang impact area namin, which is in Region 12. Nabanggit kanina ni Dr. Albert that Soxargen is one of yung high yung concentration ng out-of-school children. So, we actually have an office in Region 12. Particularly in Sarangani, we provide assistance to the Department of Education sa kanilang self-instructional modules, which is developed as part of their ADM program. So, ang ginagawa po ng DepEd Sarangani, they give self-instructional materials to students at risk of dropping out. No? So, tinitake home po ito ni bata, binabasa niya sa bahay kapag hindi siya nakakapasok because primary problem po or primary issue sa Sarangani is access. Yung mga bahay po ng mga bata malayo sa school, kailangan nilang tumawid ng ilog, kailangan nilang tumawid ng gubat. No, literally may isang kahoy lang po no na tulay, no isang log no na tumutulay yung mga bata para makarating sila sa school. So in 2018, nagkaroon kami ng orientation sa Barangay Upo sa kanilang teachers and school heads. Nagkaroon din po kami ng profiling ng mga pupils at risk of dropping out sa Upo Elementary School. And we also provided writing materials panimula para meron silang magagamit. And also orientation and coaching sessions for the UPO para teachers. So yung mga UPO Elementary School para teachers po, actually magandang karanasan po ito ni Sarangani na meron siyang para teachers. So si teacher mismo na nasa school, dahil hindi na kayang umalis ng iwan yung klase niya to go to yung malalayong bahay ng mga estudyante, meron siyang para teachers. Yung para teachers yung pumupunta sa communities at sa mga households at sila yung nagkakandak ng ADM program. Yun. And nagkaroon din po ng FGD with selected pupils and parents. Ang nalaman po nila, out of the students, doon sa 88 na pupils at risk of dropping out, merong 10 lamang na kayang magbasa. At hindi pa ito independent readers, they're instructional readers. No? So ibig sabihin, kaya nila magbasa with a teacher. No? Tapos merong frustration level readers na 78. So kanina nabanggit ko na self-instructional materials, yung pangunahing intervention sa DepEd Sarangani. How will that work? Kung ang mga pardos or pupils at risk of dropping out ay hindi pa kayang magbasa. Right? So, yan. Ano po yung mga pangunahing dahilan kung bakit nagda-drop out yung mga bata? So according to the parents, walang baon, walang pagkain. They have to take care of their siblings. Sila yung inaatasang mag-alaga sa nakababata nilang kapatid. And they have to work in the field. So tama yung nabanggit din kanina ni Miss Nina, may seasonal work talaga, lalo na sa rural areas. Tapos para naman sa mga bata, kaya daw sila nag-absent is because kailangan nilang tumulong sa gawaing bahay. They have to take care of their siblings. At ito na nga, malayo yung bahay nila sa school. Access. Tapos they also are unable to cross the river. Meron pong shinare yung isang kasama namin sa Sarangani na parang isang river lang yung kailangan mong i-cross. Pero umiikot siya ng 8 to 12 times yata. So you have to cross one river but 8 times. At 3 araw po sa isang linggo yung pinakamaraming araw na hindi sila nakakapasok. Yun. So currently, we're also conducting another research. This is with Mindanao State University. At sana sa susunod na research forum ay masishare na namin yung results. And we want to answer the following question. So, magagamit ba talaga yung SIMS? Are they effective? Are they responsive doon sa pangangailangan ng mga pupils at risk of dropping out? And do they improve learning outcomes? Also, yung para-teachers, yung component ng para-teacher pa nakakatulong din? O kailangan ba talagang dalhin natin yung mga at risk of dropping out sa school mismo? Do they need that learning environment or okay lang sa community, okay lang sa bahay with a para-teacher? Also, we want to know yung parental support na kailangan para makapagpatuloy ng pag-aaral yung mga at risk of dropping out. And how does community involvement contribute to their completion of the SIMS? So yan po yung sa Sarangani. Yung isang impact area po namin ay sa Navotas. Ayan, ito yung nabanggit na kanina ni Miss Nina. So we did a child mapping study sa NBBN at NBBS sa Navotas, kung saan meron po tayong 89 out-of-school children, and these are child laborers. Hindi po talaga sila pumapasok. Ayan, so these are just profile ng kanilang household. So they belong to an average of 5 members na family. Out of the 78 household interviews, merong teenage mothers and meron ding 4 na may disability. So again, yung nabanggit din kanina ng previous presenters na intersectionality of disadvantages. These are the sample na trabaho po ng mga child laborers who are out of school. So dahil fishport siya, nakatali din yung trabaho nila sa fishport. Yun. So, most of the family budget talaga ay napupunta sa pagkain. Pangalawa yung education, and finally, health. We also, nung child mapping study kami, tinignan din namin yung iba't ibang factors na nagko-contribute kung bakit hindi sila nakakapag-aral. So, water is one factor. So, for example, wala silang sariling tubig, so yung mga bata yung nag-iigib, they have to get their own water. Yun. At para po sa mga babaeng estudyante, it's a factor, especially yung mga adolescent na natin, no, na nagme-menstruate. Isa pa po sa lumabas na factor bakit hindi nag-aaral is that walang birth certificate. Yun. So, even yung mga iba naming in-interview, isa po ito sa reason bakit hindi na pumapasok. Wala kasing birth certificate, baka hindi payagan ni teacher, baka hindi tanggapin. Yan. Ipapakita ko na lang po yung sample nung mga na-interview namin bata. So, 1 7-year-old kid, ito po yung handwriting niya. Handwriting. So, it translates to naglalaro sa labas. Yun. So, as you can see, this is already a 7-year-old child. Hindi pa rin niya kayang magsulat. This is also, tinanong namin, anong ginagawa mo sa umaga? That's also a sample handwriting. If you can see, merong parang E, but that's all na kaya niyang naisulat. So, ang translation yan ay namamalimos, malapit sa bahay. Yeah. So, these are the top reasons for not attending school. Walang birth certificate, may problema sa pera o pamilya, ayaw pumasok na kanina nag-reflect naman doon sa ibang research, no? Lack of interest. Ayaw magpaiwan sa paaralan. Bullying, again, laging lumalabas. May takot sa teacher at tinatamad, and meron ding mga may disability. Ayan. So ito po yung disabilities na lumabas doon sa child mapping study. Meron din po mga illnesses. Ayan. So, the kids, they want to go back to school at meron naman silang prospect ng mga schools na gusto nilang puntahan. Tapos, nung nakaraan po, nagkaroon ng sunog sa Navota. So, ito po yung latest update namin. So, yung mga bata po na na-interview namin are actually living dito sa nasunog na ito, na market no, sa Navotas. So, yun lang po. Thank you.
Salamat, Ivy. So let us now go back to our reactions. And our second and last reactor for this session is the Executive Director of KNK Philippines Children Without Borders, Friends, Ms. Helen de Vera Estrada.
Okay, magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. So, ako po si Ms. Helen de Vera Estrada. So, kami ay matagal na nag-work for OSC and Y sa community ng Caloocan and Quezon City. So, gusto ko lang pong i-congratulate yung gumawa ng research sa first and second and third presenters po. So, tama naman po yung lahat ng kanilang mga findings. And then, meron lang po akong gusto lang din idagdag, no? Based doon sa along the way, working with children and parents, na ang lagi nilang sinasabi ng mga parents na nakita namin yung value on education. Kasi sinasabi ng yung mga parents kasi ay illiterate din, so tendency kapag yung kanilang mga anak, hindi na rin pag-aaralin. Ay, kasi lalo na kung babae yan, sabihin nila, ay, mag-aasawa din lang yan. So, okay lang na hindi na siya mag-aaral. And then, yung mga boys naman, pagdating niya, pagtungtong yan ng 10 and above, so pagtatrabawin na, lalo na doon sa mga, syempre, doon sa mga laborers, sa mga construction worker, hindi naman kailangan ng mga, tawag dito, certificate of diploma. So, tendency, tutulong na rin sila sa kanilang mga tatay. So, yun, dumadami yung, yung OSC and Y. And then, yung po, tapos yun din yung problema din, lalo siya nagiging problem, especially doon sa, lalo na yung mga bata na nakakommit ng mga petty crimes, no? Tendency, mga nag-aaral sila, nakakommit ng crimes, and then later on, makukulong, mapupunta sa jail. So, na-stop po sila. And then, pagbalik sa school, meron na silang stigma, so hindi na sila tatanggapin. So, meron na silang ganong branded na sila sa school. Ay, hindi yan kasi magnanakaw yan. So, yung mga ganon. So, yun lang po ang may share ko. sa araw na ito. Magandang umaga.
Maraming salamat, ma'am. So, before we go to the open forum, please join me in thanking our speakers and reactors for their insightful presentations and comments. So at this point, may I invite them to join me here in front for the open forum. Dr. Albert, Nina, si Mr. Villafranca, Miss Ivy, and Miss De Vera, please. We will have a quick open forum since it's already lunchtime, but please don't constrain yourself from asking valuable questions and okay, sige, mag-start na po tayo. Okay, may we have the gentleman at the back to be followed by our colleague here at the side. Then, kasunod si ma'am at saka din si sir. Please.
Yeah, we're talking,
Please introduce yourself
yeah,
first and your
Manuel
affiliation.
from the Congressional Policy and Research Department. It might be a comment or a question. From the point of view of inclusivity, we're talking about inclusivity, but I'm not approaching from the disability point of view. Rather, kasi ang tanong ko ganito, most of those who graduate from high school do not go to college. Like, what's the baseline information on that? Second, even if there are reasons why they don't go to college, right? Your research shows it. But what if they want to go to college? They work and they save up to go to college. Now, then they find out that they could not go on to college anymore unless they go back to senior high school. Because that's the rule. It's which I found out. Because I was pushing some young people to go back to college, and when they asked, they could not go to college. The public high schools, public colleges are not accepting anymore because they have to go back. Isn't that not penalizing those who have already graduated for the very reasons na hindi naman nila tumuloy dahil yung kakayanan nila, di ba? So what do you think about that? Isn't that not inclusive? Or should we do something more? Like, kailangan ba natin silang palugit, bigyan ng palugit? How many of these are involved in this kind of situation right now?
Okay. Thank you for your question. So, anyone from our speakers would like to give his or her thoughts? Perhaps?
I always have thoughts, but then my question is whether okay, as I said, I always have thoughts. The issue about inclusivity is really you're trying to make everybody get what they need. No? And I have empathies always for kids who always want to go to school. In fact, even parents, you ask them, you know, they would always say, maski man lang makatuntong ng second year, I don't even know where that term comes from. Second year, yun yung even among the poor. They always like, kahit na hindi sila nag-aral, medyo gusto nila makatapos man lang hanggang second year high school. Now, what do we do with those kinds of cases? Unfortunately, ito nga yung naging problema natin because we have policies that will fit everyone. But then maybe there's a need for some kind of flexibility. Understandably, if you're in college, ang concern mo dito is kung mara yung batang yon matagal-tagal na bago nag-aral. Pag mag-college man siya, given the opportunity, malamang hindi siya matatapos. Kung reskilling-wise, retooling-wise, malayo na siya. You get my drift. So, the question is whether that person could be given extra things that will enable him or her to actually have a strong chance na makakatapos talaga siya sa college. Unfortunately, wala.
In fact, pagtanggap pa lang hindi siya tinatanggap.
Yun na nga, yun nga ang punto ko. The thing is, but even if matanggapin mo, baka hindi nga matapos kung malayo na siya, medyo malayo-layo na siya. Kasi even kids, maski sa primary age, pag nag-drop out na yan, ang hirap mong pabalikin eh. Kasi there are social issues also na yung bata sabihin, ay naku, matanda na ako kaysa sa mga, yung ganun ba? So it's, even for those kids who might want to go back to school, there are a lot of social and cultural barriers. Should we not give people opportunities? That's what we should be doing, but the only question is, just by letting him go to school, that's not gonna solve anything too. My point is you need to be able to do a lot of things to ensure that that person will really finish college. Kaso hindi eh. We do have all these barriers. Some of it is understandable because yun nga, sabihin, ay eto, ganyan, para mas madali. Kasi gusto natin parating mas madali para, oh yan, kailangan matapos lahat ngayon. If that's true, that rule, kailangan everybody should have finished senior high. Eh even nga, ang tanong ko nga, even sa gobyerno, matatanggapin ba natin ang senior high student? Hindi. Bakit? According to the civil service rule, kailangan college pag makatapos ka, makapasok ka sa gobyerno. Even LGUs cannot even accept senior high school students, graduates. See, there are rules.
So wala din siyang chance na pumasok sa gobyerno kasi ayaw mo papasukin sa...
Yun na ang punto ko. Unfortunately, ito yung nagiging concern ko even for the people in Congress. I hope we start re-examining constantly all the rules. Kasi ang daming rules of the game na understandably, when you put the rule is to make things simpler, na meron kang processes. Kaya lang, nagiging too stiff tayo about rules. Eh samantalang actually, in theory, we should be flexible enough. Kung kaya naman ng bata, makatapos, well and good. Pero ida-diagnose mo. Huwag mo namang tanggapin lang just for the sake of getting and saying, oh, tanggapin natin, tanggapin. No? So dapat prepare mo rin yan. No? Kasi it's not easy. Parang, by getting that one student, I'm just thinking along the lines, if I were a college administrator, if I get that one student, I'm also going to because of the number of students I can only officially accept, I will also give somebody else less opportunity to come to me. Diba? So parang ganun, it's not easy. The solutions to problems are very darn complex.
Yeah, I'm raising it up para mapag-isipan kasi experience ko to. These are kids na alam ko kaya nilang tumuloy, may pero hindi sila mabigyan ng chance.
Yeah, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for bringing that up, our friend from the CPDRD. Next question, please. Wait, meron bang gustong idagdag ng ating mga speakers dito? Okay, siguro sa next question na lang, no? So, sir, please.
Hello, good morning. I'm Renz po from BRAC Philippines. And we found the discussions very fruitful. BRAC, B-R-A-C, BRAC. We found the discussions very fruitful and very informative. Kasi kami po sa BRAC, we in partnership with the Australian government, we implemented an ADM project in BARM. And it's very interesting nga kasi during the discussions, laging nababanggit ang BARM as one of our target groups, target focus dapat when delivering these kinds of education kasi sila may highest incidence ng out-of-school children and youth. However, syempre, naging fruitful sa aming discussion. We noticed a lot of data na ma-apply namin sa aming projects, but we noticed na may kakulangan talaga tayo sa literature on OSCs and ADMs in provinces, particularly sa BARM. Now, this is actually more a question, more a suggestion rather than a question, or rather an invitation sa lahat. Bilang ilang beses ang nabanggit kanina na we have to be open to collaborations, to networking, to teamwork. We kami po sa BRAC, we are inviting everyone to come to our communities sa aming geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas. Pumunta po tayo sa puso ng Marawi, pumunta tayo sa kabundukan ng Maguindanao. Doon po tayo mag-conduct ng researches kasi marami po tayong matututunan sa kung bakit nga ba may out-of-school children at youth but mataas yung incidence ng out-of-school children and youth dito sa areas natin, and at the same time, makapag-develop tayo ng solutions to further strengthen and institutionalize ADM not only in BAR, but in the entire nation. Yun lang po, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's really very important. Maraming salamat. Okay, next question. Si Mr. Agustin. And then I think tinawag po si Ma'am.
Thank you. Let me connect my question to the development plan of the Philippines. Sabi rito, boost the development of Filipino creativity. And may I ask question on history based on the cases Malabon, Barn, and Navotas. Let me bring in the issue of relevance. I am from Barn, and my little knowledge of history is that Portugal, Spain, they were near the seas. How come they were able to come to the Philippines? Because their outlook was different. Because they have that creative mind. In Malabon, Navotas, nasa dagat. Sabi yung problema yung baon pagpunta sa eskwela. Why don't we tie up, for example, education with fishing? And I challenged also Dr. Albert, being a think tank, kids. Why don't we connect all of this? Kasi dapat nasa dagat na sila, or mga Sweden, Scandinavian countries, they protect their seas. Why don't we connect it, harness these people, or education towards the dagat, fishing. And I think like the Chinese dumarating sa amin sa barn. They fish inside Sulu Sea. Okay. But poverty is in barn. Why don't we connect education so that we tie up the conclusion of poverty, prison? Siguro, interest, papasok doon sa mga taga-Malabon na botas. Yung drawing nila, hindi na yung guhit-guhit, pero isda. And they can spell, i-connect mo yung isda sa spelling. Fish. How do you spell fish? Ito. Isda. I think if you connect this, and we can tie this up, pagkanda yung development plan natin to boost creativity. Where is the creativity here in education? And I think let our challenges, let me challenge you with this challenge. Thank you very much.
Would you like to give your thoughts?
Thank you for the wonderful question. Sa bagay po ng Save the Children, we are currently contextualizing learning materials para po akma doon sa sitwasyon ng mga bata. So tama po kayo. Actually, naisip na po namin yan, Sir Dan, na yung aaralin ng mga bata related sa gawain nila sa fish port. So, for example, yun nga, ano yung iba't ibang klaseng isda, paano sila sinusulat, at pati rin po yung numeracy skills nila. So, yung pagkikwenta ng pera, etc. So, everything revolving doon po sa fish port. So, we're already doing that. Tapos, what I presented po kanina, yung child mapping, is what's happening on the ground. So, particularly in Sarangani and in Navotas. But, overall, we're also providing national technical assistance to the Department of Education para po sa kanilang ADM programming. Because ADM is informal education. So it caters to students at risk of dropping out. So bago pa po sila malaglag sa sistema, gusto na natin silang saluhin through ADM. And we're also doing that. So we're doing the Bibingka approach, technical assistance at the national level, and also doing direct intervention on the ground. So thank you, sir.
May gusto bang idagdagin iba natin mga speakers?
Actually, yung, di ba, yung parang first phase po yun yung ginawa namin research. In response po, yung the same research team po, kinuha rin po kami ng Save the Children din po to actually create and contextualize ADM program specifically for the children living in Navota. So yung gumawa, yun yung sinasabi po ni Miss Ivy, gumawa po kami ng program na pinagsama-sama po yung entrepreneurship and then yung knowledge nila about the seas and at the same time numeracy para at least, alam mo yun, kasi yun ang gusto natin, yung mga bata gusto nila yung life skills eh. So, yung sinabi niyo po yan, alam ko po, if I'm not mistaken, it's already, kumbaga, nasa process na inaayos na po siya, no? So, yun, kumbaga, nasagot naman po ng ADM, ng Save the Children po yung katanungan po nyo na yan.
Thank you. So, next question, ma'am?
Good morning po. Salamat po sa mga presentations ninyo. That information. I'm Len po pala from ASMA Philippines. Okay, we work under two domains in CWD and CISS, in Children in Street Situations, or Street Children. I agree po kay Sir kanina sa presentation ninyo na yung poverty is a driving force, no, para ang bata ay umalis sa eskwelahan or maging out of school or out of school children. We work with partners who work with street families and street children, no, within these families. Yung lack of personal interest is the main reason for dropping out of school. Sa experience namin na living in the streets, sa pedicab or sa gilid ng kalye, tama po yung sinabi ninyo, yung recommendation na to still have a follow-up question, bakit may lack of interest ng bata? So, ang sa amin, experience namin is, isa dyan yung, because we also support yung drop-in center, na araw lang naman sila pwedeng mag-stay doon. So, sa gabi, they have to go dun sa kung saan man sila natutulog. And kadalasan po, especially pag rainy season, maraming bata sa drop-in center. And two things pa pala, yung mga street children, they still go to school naman, and marami din sa kanila hindi na nag-aaral. Yung mga nag-aaral, kapag rainy season, marami sa drop-in center. Bakit? Hindi sila nakapasok sa school. Bakit? Kasi napuyat po sila. Kasi umulan kagabi and nabasa yung kanilang tinutuluyan. So, ganun kalungkot, no? Yung mas malalim pa na underlying causes nung bakit yung bata ay siguro nasabi lang na wala ng interest. Pero mas malalim po yung dahilan. Yun, apart from nagubuli din naman sila, no? Kapag sila ay nasa eskwelahan, among the reasons. Dun sa pangalawa po na presentation on ADM, we also support yung partners namin on their street education program and mobile unit. Very interesting na kasama po sa presentation ni Ma'am yung Cariton Classroom as one of the ADMs. Isa sa mga concerns ng partner namin, pinag-iisipan namin na paano ba, and which is also connected dun sa bridging na question ni Sir kanina, na maraming bata po ma-attend sa street education program and mobile unit ng aming partners, Child Hope Philippines, Kalungan sa Irma, Bahay Tuluyan. Sila may mga pioneering work on street education. Ang program, may mga bata po na matagal nang uma-attend sa SEP or street education or mobile unit. Yun, yung bridging, paano ba yun? Paano pag gusto nilang bumalik sa school? No, yun. So, paano yung bridging system? No, yung ganong mechanism sana na meron. Para hindi naman yung bata na medyo may edad na siya, pero mahiya na siyang umupo sa isang grade 2 class na klase, no? Pero in terms of skill, siguro pwede ito, I know meron na equivalency, no? Yung unless mag-ALS ka, yun nga lang. Kasi street education nga is not even an ALS, no? Or accredited ALS, or an accredited ADM. Ang question ko po is, yun nga, na yung Cariton Classroom po ba is an accredited ADM, yung modality ng DepEd? Para kasi gusto rin namin na-explore yun, na yung SEP or yung MU, ay maging ganun din siya, na accredited din siya na ADM ng DepEd.
Okay.
Thank you po.
Siguro we should also hear the response of the one from DepEd, ano? Sa DepEd muna. Sa DepEd, ang DepEd siguro ang mas magandang sumagot yan. Go ahead po.
Accredited po, ma'am, kasi part po yan ng alternative delivery mode. And then meron din po tayo yung tawag na SII, yung School Initiative Intervention Program.
Pero yung sinasabing bridging, halimbawa gusto na bumalik sa formal school, Paano yun?
Alin po doon, ma'am? Yung...
So from ADM, tapos kung halimbawa may option, gusto niya bumalik sa...
Yes, ma'am. Pwede naman po bumalik.
Oo. Pwede.
Tinatanggap naman po sila.
May dapat ba silang kuhanin na na assessment? Exam or something?
Like, kapag galing po sa ADM, and then babalik po sa formal school, meron din po kasi tayong tinatawag na PEPT, Educational Placement Test po. Sa BEA po yun, so pwede po sila mag-take ng exam, tapos pagka naipasa nila, pwede naman po sila bumalik sa formal.
May gusto kayong idagdag, ma'am? Dun sa based on your...
So, dun lang sa kasi based dun sa pag-implement namin ng alternative learning system. So, along the way, yung motivation namin to come back to regular school ay yun nga, ma-attend sila sa ALS. And then, yung motivation is to go back again to regular school. So, nakita namin na, ay, maganda, motivation pala nila yun. Kasi, nami-miss nila yung mga friends nila. So, kasi kami nga 3 times a week. And then, gusto nila na, everyday, maganda pala. So, yun, nakakabalik. Minsan, yung follow-up namin, yung iba naming estudyante, yung pala nandun na nasa Mulagin.
Nasa regular school.
Yes po. And then, yung ADN na sinasabi din, usually, ang school nagre-require na umattend dun sa ADM, especially kung yung bata ay very sickly. And then yung, kasi meron kaming mga estudyante din na nasa regular school, and then the school required to attend sa, mag-ADM na lang siya because of pasaway siya, yung mga gano'n. Alam mo yung mga teachers na ayaw na ng maraming problem, so nilalagay na lang nila doon para hindi na nila makita estudyante.
Ay, hindi po kami gusto kong idagdag.
I just want to clarify, yung ADM po, yung Alternative Delivery Program, Alternative Delivery Mode Program ni DepEd is based sa formal education. ALS, on the other hand, is non-formal. So, kagaya nung nabanggit ko kanina, ADM is catering to kids who are still in school. So, hindi sila out of school. Bago pa sila mag-drop out, bago pa sila were already doing intervention, si DepEd particularly, para matugunan yun. It may not be perfect, that's why meron siyang mga katuwang na NGOs and CSOs like Save the Children, providing assistance and support. But I can tell you right now na patuloy nilang ine-enhance yung kanilang ADM programming. So yun lang po para malinaw. As to the bridging, we're also working out yung isang referral system. For example, yung intervention namin na reading camp sa Navotas, the kids are child laborers. They are out of school. They are not in school. So what we can do as SAVE, i-refer yung mga batang ito sa pinakamalapit na DepEd school. So yun yung pwedeng bridging na when they're ready to go back to the regular school, that's what we can do with DepEd po. Tapos I also want to stress, kasi sabi ni Ma'am yung hindi interesado si bata pero may iba pa palang underlying reason. It's also important that we look at education for out-of-school children, ADM, as yung flexible learning options natin in a multi-sectoral and whole community approach. So hindi lang talaga education yung kailangan natin tugunan, but also the livelihood of the parents, yung education ng parents on the value of education as well. Lahat yun kailangan nating pagtahi-tahiin and tugunan para matugunan yung mas malaking pangailangan ng mga out-of-school children. So yun lamang po. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivy. Attorney Debbie, who gave us the keynote message of Congressman Roman, who would like to share with us the initiatives at Congress on education as it relates to the presentations. Please go ahead, Attorney.
Yes, I'd like to share with you that the Committee on Basic Education has just passed and approved the bill on alternative learning system. So this is to institutionalize the alternative learning system, which as of the moment is kanya-kanya by the LGU and the other NGOs. So with the institutionalizing of the ALS, we hope that this is to make sure that we are able to deliver basic education for out-of-school children, youth, and adults. And not only basic education, but like the question of, Sir, meron tayong continuing education. So kung halimbawa, tumigil ka ng grade 3, you just take the accreditation and equivalency tests. So you can continue. And we don't stop there. Kasi yung parang ang lahat ng grade 10 lang, and then you take senior high. Pero kung kaya mo to pass the senior high, based on the accreditation and equivalency test, then DepEd, based on the law, on the bill, should help the student to prepare for college. So yun yung mga features ng ALS. Also, the congressman did not just stop on putting a provision for giving of fund, but that they made sure to put in the bill that DepEd should set aside at least 1%, of their entire budget for ALS. So hindi lang kung basta just to appropriate fund, pero meron definite percentage of the budget. And then also next week we will be starting our oversight committee on the K-12 kasi nandun yun sa batas eh. Like sabi ni Dr. Albert, may nagbabantay ba? Yes, babantayin natin. It's not to point fingers on who to blame, but to really evaluate where are we now at. So that's as to Congressman Romulo, sorry my voice, parang nahihirapan siyang i-accept na ang dami-daming subjects ng grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. As of now, there are 7 to 8 subjects. Imagine, may mother tongue ka, may Filipino, may English, may math, araling panlipunan, PE and health, and then, and then, which is the ESP. So, ang dami-dami na sana sa kanya, we just limited muna to reading, writing, and numeracy. Para meron silang talagang sinasabi ng competency. Hindi na bibuild ang competency on this, on the basic. Kaya, what he wants is, i-review, kung kailangan bawasan.
I saw our friend from DepEd nodding her head, so I think agree siya sa mga sinabi ni attorney. Please, you want to say something?
So actually po, right now po kasi nire-review na po talaga yung curriculum. So almost lahat na po ng time namin napunta sa curriculum review. So hindi na po kami umuwi ng bahay. So meron na pong, alam ko po may results na po yung curriculum review. So parang meron na po decongestion of the subject. So dapat po si Kinder ay dito lang po nakafocus. So naka-take note po yan, ma'am. So hanggang next year po, wala po kaming gagawin kundi mag-curriculum review.
Okay, thank you. I think I acknowledged someone kanina, and we will have her as our, for the last question kasi wala na po tayo dito. So please.
Thank you. Actually, congratulations to all the presenters. All the presentations are brain-enriching, even if I heard them for the second time. Mas marami kang ma-absorb, no? So, I was trying to put everything together, including yung sa first session, no? So, actually, you highlighted the importance of monitoring and evaluation. This doesn't have to be magical, yung monitoring and evaluation, no? So, why am I saying this? Kasi, first realization, takeaway points, no, is I listened to one presenter, not in this forum, and they were saying that the completion rate for elementary and junior high school is very high. In fact, if you compare it with the 2015 baseline, ay na-exceed natin yung targets for 2016, 2017, and as a result, we're adjusting our targets, no? So, this was in a very recent presentation, early November. But here we are saying na mataas na yung completion rate based on that presentation, but at the same time, mababa yung scores natin. Okay, so medyo so maybe the importance of quality, no? And we're saying na we're rewarding teachers dahil dun sa zero dropout rate na policy or guideline, ay syempre yun ang consequence. Para lahat zero, then kahit na hindi na-meet yung quality, then ipapasa siya. Okay? I just have a thought na why would we reward teachers for doing that? Instead, we motivate them, instead of doing that, we motivate them for doing a research. And again, I'm relating this to monitoring and evaluation. As I said, hindi naman kailangan highfalutin ang monitoring and evaluation mo. So if I'm a teacher, would it be possible that ako mismo, I can evaluate my own performance, identify ano yung factors, bakit sa classroom ko, na siguro 60 nga yung laman ng classroom niya eh, no? In a group of 60 students in a classroom, anong dahilan bakit 20% noon ay nag-drop out, no? So, it may be too high a figure, no? So, but then, it's just saying na baka doon mo pwedeng i-reward ang isang teacher and give incentives para mag-think siya, mag-isip siya, what can I do to improve dun sa classroom ko na lang, hindi yung buong school, okay? So, yung incentives are therefore geared at recognizing or acknowledging yung accomplishment ng teacher for improving or providing a solution dun sa problemang nakikita niya sa classroom niya, rather than just yung zero dropout rates, no? So, as we said earlier, importante yung flexibility, no? I think we mentioned that a couple of times in this forum. Parang differentiated ang ating approach, no? So, I really feel na ang dami-daming pwedeng maging motivation para kay teacher na sinabi natin right at the very start na tambak nga yung trabaho niya, no? So, sobra-sobra. But it would really be good to compensate or acknowledge or recognize those teachers na who make a difference dun sa ginagawa nila ngayon, no? So, this is just to show our appreciation to our teachers, no? And give them more motivation na actually, baka mamaya ang blame na pupunta sa kanila, but really, hindi naman yun ang ginagawa natin. And we're really wanting na ma-achieve nila because they have the same objectives as we all do, no? As we are emphasizing here. So, sana lang mabigyan ng ganung opportunity to think and perform.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Toots, you mentioned something kanina about the PPP, having, mga indicators.
I like the idea to some extent that you want to make teachers get incentivized somehow to evaluate themselves, but the only question is, can they do that, because there's a bias for that. Second is, not all teachers know research methods, so that's why you have to reskill them. So which brings me to my whole point that even if we diagnose currently, kasi supposedly once binigyan ng test yung teachers, no? But believe it or not, hindi nilabas yung results because I suspect, I know why. Okay? But the thing is, that's a question of accountability. If you have a diagnosis of teachers, you already have diagnosis of students' performance, the question still is, okay, kahit sabihin natin we're not blaming the teachers, but there might be lack of you may have been teaching this subject so long, but you don't know that there are new ways of teaching, but there are no mechanisms for them to get reskilled. There aren't. You say, okay, let's give them magkaroon incentive, magkaroon ng para ma-promote sila, maging master teacher siya, etc., etc. They'll get graduate education. But a graduate education is not the only way to deliver good quality education. Who said that we always have to make it na kailangan may math, may MS, o may PhD, o may doctor of education? Some teachers are really good. But the only thing is, my question still here is that how come there are no models for us to be able to have other teachers become the model for the rest of the other teachers who are not doing too well? Wala tayong ganun pang diagnosis muna na nangyayari na, and then you put in kasi every year DepEd has, di ba, training for teachers. Ang tanong ko, sandama ka na training, but how do you know that the teachers are really learning? That it's not synchronized. You should have a diagnosis, di ba? Kasi whenever you have a training, the training is meant as a gap, as a initiative to address gaps. Pero hindi nagmamatch eh. So, even now, just one course, because kasi statistician ako, there is supposed to be a grade 11 first semester statistics course. How many of the teachers really know statistics? Magpapagturuin sila. Siguro bibigyan sila yun nga yung aming material na akong binigay. When I went around, many of them did not even know that it exists. Even if I gave it, group kami nila Father Nebres, we got composed scientists and mathematicians, we wrote textbooks that we donated to Ateneo. Ateneo gave it to CHED donated to DepEd, but I went around and I could not find a lot of people who knew that the book exists. In spite of the fact that we made it available. And it's not just materials, the training, because even if you're a math teacher, math is different from stat. How do you know that they're teaching it well enough even if you give them the learning materials? So there are all of these things, kaya lang even if you do all of this monitoring, research, my question still is, okay, we will do all these evaluations for you, but then, what will happen? What will be the actionable result from M&E and all of this research? We keep talking now, but then maybe we're preaching to ourselves. But the ones who should be changing, no, there's nothing happening. Because I want to really make sure that we have something that we can promise to our kids. Kasi, di ba, 5 years, 10 years down the line, we think of these kids being molded, but then I don't know whether we're really molding them well enough, skilled enough, so that, the future will be theirs for them to reap. But, there are no new demands now, especially with new technologies happening, but are we making sure that our kids will be prepared for the future skills that they need? Even, we may teach them technical skills, but what about soft skills? I will tell you, you talk with businessmen, many of them say, ay, kayo mga Pilipino, pag hinayang foreign investors, I talk with them, and they say, oh, they're all just silent, they will not talk. Why are you not talking? Why are you not making yourself, parang kulang tayo sa certain soft skills? But the question is DepEd or anyone training the kids for soft skills? And even it was mentioned about interventions on continuing education, but what about the parents? Where are they all there? Of course, you might say, meron naman ALS, pero hindi naman just ALS. Hindi ba? So there should be a lot of things we should be doing and mapping out. We really need to have an actual roadmap. A roadmap for ensuring that we will reach SDG 4, quality education for all. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, so in as much as we would like to entertain more questions, we don't have time anymore. So then during the lunch break, I don't. But at this point, just join me once again in thanking them for very long consent and thank you all for your active participation. I now give the mic to our MC.
Okay, so we have an enriching discussion, but it's high time we enrich our system, our stomach. So let's have lunch, and we would like, after eating your lunch, we would like to invite you to visit the marketplace at the mezzanine of the hotel, where you can get free publication materials and other knowledge materials. Time check is 12:41, so we'll be expecting you to be here at 1:30 so we can start the session on time. So lunch will be served at the poolside, so they have to queue for that. Yes. So there you go. Enjoy your meal.